Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
LeBron's recruitment is heating up, but which team gives him the best chance to win a title? Also, Father Time could finally catch up to Derrick Henry. Should fantasy owners beware? And the Jacksonville Jaguars failed the NFL offseason.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
LeBron James is still searching for the best path to one more championship, but which team actually gives him the strongest chance to get there? Locked On NBA hosts Wes Goldberg, Hayes, and Tony East broke down the case for the 76ers, Cavaliers, Heat, Nuggets, and Timberwolves and debated which destination offers LeBron the best combination of fit, star power, and title upside.
Sixers showrunner Bob Myers went on Rich Paul's podcast to make his pitch for LeBron James. Instead, it said that if LeBron cares about winning above all else, that he would choose the Sixers over all of the other potential landing spots. Hayes, does Bob Myers have a point?
No, Bob Myers does not have a point. I to say that the Sixers above all else is just no. I get it that they're an exciting team. They added Jaylen Brown. I love Tyrese Maxey. I like Edgecombe. And if Embiid stays healthy, they'd be a force. But if you're talking about the best shot at winning a title, like we talked about with yesterday's episode, I feel like there's like 15 different angles to take this on. Like, join a team that already was close. Like, if the best team to join for the vet minimum would be the Thunder if you just want to win a title. Like to say that the 76ers, that's just wrong. That's just objectively wrong.
Yeah, you nailed it. The Spurs and Thunder can, in fact, pay you a minimum contract and be a much better team than the 76ers. If they're only going on the whiteboard teams, I still disagree. The Cavs were better than the Sixers last year. They should still be pretty good. The Timberwolves might be awesome. If they have Ant and LeBron and LaMelo, they might be like the coolest team ever. Like, I don't even know if it's the best of the whiteboard teams. He can play with Giannis. The Heat look pretty good, too. It's like, I don't think the Sixers are going to be bad by any means. They're definitely better than they were. What is today? July 8th. They're better than they were 9 days ago. But no, I do not think that this is the best team he could go to. In fact, of the known options, is maybe not even in the top half.
Yeah.
It felt a little desperate to have your guy that runs your team go on the podcast that is run by the player's agent to make your pitch to me. And maybe that means that the Sixers kind of know that is this like a last resort thing? Bob Myers obviously is very experienced in the media, so he might just have wanted to do it. Like, that's totally possible. But yeah, I agree with you guys. Even of the whiteboard teams, I think the Sixers are a fine team. I still need Joel Embiid to last for 4 series, no matter which way you cut that team. I don't care. Jaylen Brown, Quentin Grimes, Dean Wade, LeBron James, everything they added, you still are built, a team at least partially built around Joel Embiid. And if he's not going to be available, they have no chance. And I think the Jaylen Brown trade, the more I've thought about it, they had to do it, right? You ended up trading Paul George in 2 first rounds. You steal Jaylen Brown, and you got better. But in doing so, you may have boxed yourself in to a very good team, but not really a championship level team. And as great as LeBron James is, I don't think he's at that level anymore where he's the guy that could pull them out of that boxed corner. Hayes.
That's if they don't plan on trading Joel Embiid if this goes to crap this season. So they could box themselves in. More than likely they could have. I think they're going to be a really fine and good team. And I do think they have the chance to go to the finals. Like, I wouldn't count them out, but let's see what it looks like on the court, because sometimes these additions that look really good on paper, they don't play out that way once you see it.
I agree with you. I agree with you. They're completely capped out before this. Now they're even more capped out. Like, this is your team, and they're pretty good. Like, they could make the finals, but like, I agree that it's like, what this is boxed into this. Like, they really just need Maxey to be even better somehow, because Embiid's not going to play more than 6 playoff games in a row. Is LeBron changing Embiid's health? No.
Yeah, it's not like Embiid is it's too late for Embiid to go to the Luka school of trying to fake the being in the LeBron school. Take everything off the court. All right. Like this, let's have this conversation. Of the whiteboard teams, if we just take everything in terms of the storybook ending and the documentary that he may or may not want filmed, and even just like lifestyle stuff, take everything off the court. Which of the everything off the court, just take out of it, I mean. Which of these whiteboard spots, the teams that we think have a realistic shot at getting LeBron, offers the best chance to win, Hayes?
The Nuggets are on the whiteboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still say the Nuggets. I think that's just the basketball fit there is just so clean. I think what they need is like as far as a player that can help elevate other players when Jokic sits down, maybe even keep Jokic more fresh. Like the basketball stuff is just, not because I do a show with Matt Moore here weeklies. I really think the Nuggets offer the best basketball fit.
I agree that the Nuggets are I think the two West teams offer the best basketball fit, like same kind of deal with the Wolves. Ant's out of the game. LaMelo and LeBron are now running this like awesome high-powered passing offense. They have good enough play finishers. Their defense would be great. The problem is the question you posed was the best chance to win. Does he make those teams better enough to beat the Thunder or Spurs? I don't know that I think that. So if I'm purely going off of like the best chance to see LeBron James play and or win the finals this year, I might say Cleveland. The fit might be clunky because that's a lot of names and one ball on like – people overdo the one ball thing, but that's like 5 former All-Stars in one starting lineup. At what point is it kind of ridiculous? But that team could be really awesome if it's Harden, Mitchell, LeBron, Mobley, and Allen as a starting 5. And the East is just, everybody keeps saying the East is better. I think it's just like shifted. Like all the good players have kind of shifted outside of Toronto getting Kawhi. So I think Cleveland is my answer, even though I think the best teams on paper would be Minnesota or, like you said, Denver. The thing that I worry about with Cleveland, like, don't get me wrong, it'll be exciting. It's great. But like, playoff James Harden and playoff J.R. Smith aren't really that different. They're not that different. I see LeBron getting very frustrated with playoff James Harden.
Yeah, the more I think about that Cleveland fit, the more I'm just like, ugh.
It is weird, but it could be awesome, right? Like, sure. It could be.
Definitely could be. I think, look, to both of your guys' points, I think all the teams on the whiteboard are flawed to a degree. I don't think if there was just a perfect fit that LeBron could walk into and was obvious, we wouldn't be doing all of this, right? You bring up an interesting point, though, Tony, about, all right, well, is Denver, even Minnesota, with LeBron James better than San Antonio or Oklahoma City? Like, should that factor in his decision-making? Like, does it matter whether he goes to the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference at this point?
Yeah, I mean, maybe because, you know, the East is definitely better. I'm not trying to dismiss that, but like Kawhi is the only West to East stud so far. It's just like the East has just shifted a lot. So I think the East is still much more open than the West. It's not like even Kawhi's old team was a factor in that conference. And the top of the West is still nasty. And like Luka Doncic still exists. So, yeah, I think it would be a factor at some point. Now, Jokic is still so amazing that maybe he could say if he goes to Denver that he feels like he has a chance to do some level of winning. But, you know, and the Knicks were apparently in the mix. They're on the whiteboard, right? Should we be counting them here? It feels like they're kind of out given the way he's talked about them winning the championship. But, like, they're the best team in the East right now, right? Like, wouldn't that just be the one?
Yes.
No, you know what I said. Like, the Knicks should be, like, as far as basketball-wise, we're talking about joining a team that can win the title, yes. But like I said, if LeBron goes to New York and let them get eliminated in the first or second round, the storyline of that, the optics of that are going to be terrible for LeBron joining the story franchise like the Knicks.
Stay up to date all year on the NBA by subscribing to Locked On NBA on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, should fantasy football owners avoid Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson? Before we get to that, Dylan Cease had a no-hitter slip away in the 9th inning. The biggest stage in world soccer is here, and every match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, shift momentum, and alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kick. Now FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals mean more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. We've all seen those matches where it's scoreless for what feels like forever, and then one goal completely flips the game. Suddenly everyone's pressing, the crowd comes alive, and the final 20 minutes become must-watch television. Now you get to benefit from each goal scored from the opening whistle to the final kick. Let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. Cease worked 8 no-hit innings in a Jays blowout win on Wednesday afternoon before having his no-no broken up in the 9th.
The Blue Jays get the win in the rubber match against the San Francisco Giants 10-0, and oh my goodness, what an outing it was from Dylan Cease. The almost no-hitter, 8 immaculate innings. The execution on his pitches were unbelievable. The changeups to lefties, sliders, fastballs to righties. One of the best starts of his Blue Jays tenure, and just trying to solidify himself in that Cy Young race in the American League. Exactly what this team needed, an ace caliber starter, and that's exactly what Dylan Cease has been up to this point. What a signing this has been for the Toronto Blue Jays. You have to absolutely love the compete level that this guy displays day in and day out. He wanted to go back in the game after the 7th inning, wanted to go back in after the 8th inning. He would have threw 200 pitches to get that no-hitter. Unfortunately, it was just not in the cards today. Speaking of great signings, what a blessing Kazuma Okamoto has been to this ball club. His first Grand Slam of his major league career. He's on pace for 37 home runs and 103 RBIs. I have no idea what this offense looks like without Kazuma. Even Vladdy and George Springer jumped in on the fun and hit back-to-back home runs. I'm definitely not fully convinced that this offense can do it consistently, but you have to start somewhere. Hopefully this team can ride the momentum into the All-Star break.
In the NBA, the breakup between Mark Cuban and the Mavericks' new ownership is getting uglier. Cuban is accusing team Governor Patrick Dumont of freezing him out of business opportunities tied to a proposed move from downtown Dallas to a new arena site about 10 miles north. Cuban still owns 27% of the franchise, but says the current ownership group has pushed him aside on both the basketball and business fronts, including the Luka Doncic trade he says he learned about too late to stop. Now the fight has moved from the front office to a potential billion-dollar development project. Cuban sold control of the Mavericks, but apparently not his interest in how the team is run or where it plays. And the new NIL enforcement system has been busy, very busy. In its first year, the College Sports Commission's clearinghouse approved $355 million in deals, but rejected nearly $90 million more, including $34 million in just the last 2 months. The biggest problem appears to be deals that don't have a legitimate business purpose, don't match fair market value, or don't actually require athletes to do much of anything with their name, image, and likeness. Schools are still searching for ways around the new revenue sharing cap. While the commission says the fact that deals are being challenged and denied proves the system is working, so college sports finally has an NIL referee. The problem is half the industry still seems determined to test how far it can move the goalpost. Father Time may finally be catching up to Derrick Henry, and that could make Baltimore's 2 biggest fantasy stars risky investments this season. Locked On Fantasy Football hosts Vinny Iyer and Michelle Majuk broke down why Henry could hit the wall at age 32, why Lamar Jackson may be too expensive at his current draft price, and why fantasy managers should consider fading both Ravens standouts.
Yeah, we had this show earlier on the Ravens, which you were not there for, but we do have a couple Ravens predictions right off the bat. Lamar Jackson, I broke it down as we were talking on the show. I'm not buying him as a QB2. In fact, I'm not buying him in the top 5 this year. At his cost is too expensive, I think. When you look at him right behind Josh Allen, like there's no questions asked. Like we're just putting him behind Josh Allen. He struggled last year. He didn't stay on the field. His running went down to a level that we've never seen before in his full-time starting of 300 and change yards, right? So I was looking at all that and I'm like saying this offense might not be the best for what they were doing before. It actually might be opening up a little bit in the passing game out of necessity. And you cannot forget that John Harbaugh is gone. Like it's not just about, okay, we lose Todd Monken, who helped Lamar Jackson win his second MVP. Greg Roman, he won an MVP with him. But now we have an unknown here with Declan Doyle taking over the play calling. And it makes me a little bit nervous that the Ravens actually may not be a, quote, good team. I think you look at their defense, there's a lot of things that you question with what they're doing. And I don't know. Like this is uncharted territory for all these Ravens, right? And Doyle, look, he did a pretty good job, but he wasn't calling the plays with Ben Johnson there in Chicago. It was really Johnson doing the things to help what they were doing there. And then before he was in Denver, where Sean Payton was also living. So we'll have to see what we get from Doyle. Like I think there are a lot of things that I like about this offense, but it could be more of a regular offense. And when I say that, it's not going to be as run heavy. So how does that fit with Lamar and who we're going to talk about in a minute with Derrick Henry? So I'm just a little bit worried. The durability is a question. The running has gone down a little bit. It's not like Doyle is a running quarterback coach. He's going to have to adjust that to a little bit, but he's getting a little bit older. Are they taking Lamar's running a little bit out of the equation just because they're worried about the durability, right? I think it's really come into play when you miss 4 games and really cost your team. Because they might have been a playoff team had he been healthy, not just for those 4 games, but where he got hurt in and out. So this is starting to be a real concern, his durability. Like, he's always been a smaller guy, but as he gets older and he's not just as lightning quick as he was when he was 22, 23, it's going to come into play here. So I just don't see it necessarily. We talked about how Jalen Hurts is maybe being a little bit undervalued. Everyone looking at some things that are down. Jaden Daniels may come back and put up some numbers here. We talked about Jackson Dart and his potential. He could be taken over as a new Lamar Jackson, literally working with John Harbaugh. So there's a lot of people with upside. I think the cost is just too high. There's Drake May behind, who I feel more comfortable with. I just rather take a lot of quarterbacks behind Lamar Jackson. I'm not going to invest QB2 costs on Lamar Jackson.
I think that's what it is, right? It's about the cost, because I'm not going to be shocked at all if Lamar is a top 5 quarterback. You're saying he won't be. So then you definitely don't want to take him at quarterback 2 if you don't think he's going to be top 5. But if he's quarterback 4 or 5, or if he misses more time, like, that cost is going to hurt. But it's weird, because I do think the Ravens are going to be a good team this year, but maybe the offense could look a little worse while the defense could dominate. But I think Derrick Henry is going to officially hit father time and fall outside the top 12 running backs and fantasy points this year. Now, it might not seem super spicy because his current ADP in drafts is RB12. So it doesn't feel like crazy to say, but he's destroyed that the last 2 seasons, right? He was a running back 7 last year with 16 points per game. He had 16 rushing touchdowns. He was a running back 3 in points per game in 2024 at 19.2 points per game with 18 touchdowns. Those are his 2 seasons so far with the Ravens. So I do think it's bold to say that he's going to fall pretty far from what he's been doing. But we already saw his yardage go down by nearly 400 scrimmage yards from the first year with the Ravens to the second year. He played 17 full games in both seasons. And it's all like last year, so much of it comes down to touchdowns because he's not used as a receiver. So when you lose 400 yards and you're not used as a receiver, you're going to have to get those touchdowns. And I mean, he was dominant again at getting rushing touchdowns because that's who he is. But in games with fewer than 2 rushing touchdowns, so I'm not even just saying if he doesn't have a rushing touchdown, just games he doesn't have 2 or more rushing touchdowns, he averaged just 11.2 points per game. And then the 5 games he had 2+ rushing touchdowns, he was at 27.6 points per game. So it was like those 5 games he dominated and the rest he was just okay. And I do think that his touchdowns could come down this year. Lamar Jackson only had 2 rushing touchdowns last season. He steals more this year. And his playing time continues to lower and lower. We saw it the first year with the Ravens. We're like, oh, okay, it's pretty low. And then it's lower than what we're used to with the Titans, right? But it even went down more than that in 2025. Now, the carries are still there, but I think his body's going to start to slow down. He's 32 years old. And looking at the top 12 running backs from last year, they all scored at least 14 fantasy points per game. 7 running backs at age 32 or older have scored 14+ fantasy points per game in a season with at least 8 games played. And only 1 since 1990. We only have 1 instance of this happening. It was Ricky Williams in 2009, right at 14.4 points per game. So just getting into what we need there to be a top 12 guy. So I think just he's been beating historical stats for a long time now. Derrick Henry is great, but I think his usage is going to continue to decline. He's not used as a receiver. And even if he scores 10 rushing touchdowns instead of 16, which 10 is still great, 10 is still double-digit rushing touchdowns, he would already, like just from what he did last year, not taking away any yardage, already have fallen out of the top 12 there. So, I just think Derrick Henry is not going to be worth his draft cost this year.
Stay up to date all year on fantasy football by subscribing to Locked On Fantasy Football on your favorite podcast app. Coming up, the Jaguars are one of the few teams that actually failed this offseason. The Jaguars entered the offseason needing to close the gap in the AFC, but their work over the last few months earned them a failing grade instead. Locked On NFL host Tyler Rowland broke down where Jacksonville went wrong, why the roster may have taken a step backward, and how a disappointing offseason could leave the Jaguars struggling to build on last year's progress.
And it is with absolute pure joy that I get to tell you that the Jacksonville Jaguars got an F. Yes, I love that. I do not like the Jags. Sorry, Jaguars fans. I'll be honest about your team when you're good. I was hyping you guys up last year, so don't give me that. But it is funny. I agree. I think the Jags had the worst offseason of any team in the NFL. They didn't do enough. They had questionable decisions. They let good players go. I don't get it.
And didn't do anything to replace them. I mean, they're just going with their backups from last year and hoping they can step up. I agree. I think the Jaguars, from what they showed last year and how they improved, and then the fight they had in that wild card round, you would have thought they would have taken this offseason and went all in and been like, this is, we have the foundation, we are going all in. And instead, for like losing pieces, not doing anything whatsoever, it's very, very confusing, especially considering when you look, like, they started the season 4-3 last year. They won 8 of their final 9 games. But when you look at those 8 wins, it's not like, wow, they were so amazing. They really turned around. They had a 1-point win against the Raiders in that span, a 3-point win against the Cardinals. They beat the Titans twice, who were the worst, one of the worst teams in the league. They beat the Colts twice without Daniel Jones in that span. Yes. And then the Jets was another win. Like, they did beat up on some of those teams, and all you could do is play the teams on your schedule, and you want them to beat up on them, obviously. So, like, I'm not trying to say they were bad in any way, but when you're looking at the teams you beat, and then losing the pieces, and then being like, yeah, we're gonna be good, we're fine. Like, a terrible offseason. I have them ranked very low in my power rankings from what they did last year.
Justin Verlander says this season will be his last. The 43-year-old announced to retire at the end of 2026, closing out a 21-year career with 3 Cy Young Awards, an MVP, 2 World Series titles, more than 3,500 strikeouts, and a resume that is headed straight for Cooperstown. Verlander said he never wanted a milestone or a calendar to make the decision for him. He wanted the game to tell him when it was time. Fittingly, he'll finish where it all started, back with the Detroit Tigers, the team that drafted him more than 2 decades ago. One of the defining pitchers of his generation is almost done, but first he gets one final season to empty the tank. Coming up, the NBA's next generation takes center stage as Las Vegas Summer League tips off, giving rookies, young players, and potential breakout stars their first chance to make an impression. So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Presents Locked On Sports Today.